Hello. Okay, now you guys can hear me. All right, guys. Today we are doing some art drills. This is what the fuck that noise was. Um we are someone chatted. Hello. Hi. Error system 234. I wasn't expecting that. But we're just doing drills today. I can't put it on the screen. I don't want to get copyrighted. But we're just going to be doing drills and watching this today.
Horizontal. So now that we've practiced basic mark making rudiments, the next step is going to be how can I apply these things into a way of art drills?
Yeah, art drills.
Three-dimensionally, sculpturally with volume. The marks that we place and the angles in which we place them on a subject is extremely important. Drawing. And what I'm going to be drawing here first is just a simple egg and dart pattern. This is an architectural molding that people have been making for literally hundreds of years. And it's something that the masters use as a fundamental practice to learn three-dimensional space on a shape that is simple, right? And the way we do this is we go across the horizontal and a parallel horizontal. And this is the frame of that architectural molding. If we want, we can even give it a little width in here. Going in with pencil first. No. No. Going with pencil first.
Okay.
Then drawing verticals for where the center of our shapes are going to be, evenly spaced. First one's going to be a sword, so it's called
Hard to see you.
egg and dart because these are darts, eggs, literally. And if you go to old buildings in New York City or maybe in San Francisco, Chicago, a lot of the old buildings that have architectural moldings around doorways or around the facade of any kind, you'll see these a lot. And somebody made these, right? Somebody drew these out and made them that we could, put. All right, so now we're going to draw our egg shape. And the egg is coming out of this thing, right? So it's not the full egg. You could draw a full egg in there. Typically, they come out like this. And then it's an alternating pattern. Egg, dart, egg, dart,
I'm doing this wrong.
egg. Dart. We have 3 darts. We'll start the egg on this side. Okay. Now that we have this just sort of laid out for us, we're going to imagine there's a light coming in from this direction, from the top. And now we're going to use the marks that we've been practicing in order to cross hatch this. And this, right, isn't necessarily a piece of artwork. Sure, if you had this part of a composition and it was part of something more, yeah, it's artwork. Maybe there's some expression here in the mark making. You might consider it artwork, but really it's a practice. It's a tool to get better at seeing three-dimensional forms in space. And we have flat forms, flat planes in the darts, and we have round forms in the eggs. Right? Okay, so if the light's coming in from this side, this left side won't get any hash marks at all, but the right side will be hashed. And this angle right here, right, it's kind of like a triangle coming up off of the surface. So if you were to look at the cross section of it, or like if you were to rotate this to, you would rotate this thing, so you look at it like this, right? You'd see that this is a shape that looks like this. It's thinner at the point here, or it's further away, and this is the, so it's a point coming towards you. And so shading this, right, we know that this angle here exists. I would use lines that follow that angle, shade that. If I use vertical lines, it won't. So follow that line. Go this way because I'm really good at verticals, like I said before. So right, and so that's hatched in, and maybe there's a cast shadow, and the cast shadow is hitting a plane that's flat, just like this paper, and so that would be horizontal lines. The cross hatching marks that you want, that you use, should be representative of the surface that you're drawing them on. They should show us, they should describe to us what the plane is doing, what the plane, where the plane is facing. Here we have a little bit of a roundness. But for certain, there's going to be shadow on this egg. And we crosshatch that by finding those curved lines that we've been practicing.
I fucking suck at this. Move your hand, I can't see.
And then maybe this edge, this border edge, is above and it casts the shadow down. And I can just use vertical lines with that because it's a cast shadow, right? That's being casted onto form. And I think that as it wraps around the egg, okay. So you can see here, the form starting to curve. Right, these lines here, these diagonal lines describe that this is facing up this way. Right. These curved lines here show that this is a convex shape. Now, this next egg, I'm going to draw it a little differently. Did it a little different just to show how it changes when you do it, you know, way that other people would do it. Say I use vertical lines, that, right? And then I use direct horizontal lines. Find the core shadow. Right, you can see how that one, though it is shaded, doesn't have nearly as much form as that one. Because these grids, these squares that these hatch marks make, flatten the object quite a bit. You can see how the difference is between these diamond shapes and these square grid shapes. So doing like that is no good. Doing like that is good. Right, I'll do it on this one too if I do a bunch of vertical lines right here. Yeah, it's darker on that side, but the actual form is lost a little bit when you. All right, so that's our first little exercise, some egg and dart. And of course, you can do this with pencil if you wanted to, you know, get a nice gradient going and you wanted to have smooth transitions. I like using pen in these exercises because it helps us see through cross-hatching, and cross-hatching allows us to see form. It creates light and shadow, but it also creates form. All right, so the next thing we'll draw is a, let's see, let's do a nose. We're going to do just the anatomy of the nose here. Using very simplified shapes to find it first. And now if we were going to hatch this, right, of course these nostrils are going to be darker, massive, which is fine. But let's say the light's coming from above again. That means the bottom of the nose would be in shadow. And we're going to use lines that follow the contour of the nose in order to hatch it. And this little part up here goes vertical up into the nostril. So it gets little vertical lines. Underplane of the swoop. As there is on this side. Okay. So you can see how there's a shadow side now into this nose, which is the bottom side. And those lines not only are darkening, but they are also describing form. It's showing us that the nose is facing this way, right? And then if we were to move our hatching over to this side plane here, right, the top of the nose has this, right, if we were to get real sculptural with it here, it has this winged shape at the top, this little like piece of cartilage that divides into two pieces. And then there's the center line, of course, that comes up the bridge of the nose there, and the side of the nose, which is kind of like a ramp moving up from the cheek to the top of the nose, right? And to hatch this, right, the side plane here would follow the contour of it. And that would even go into the other hatching to create a crosshatch that describes the form right there. And then maybe even here down the middle, there's a little division down the center of the part of the nose, center nose, septum, right? And you can see how when you crosshatch right here to create the transition from the plane that's facing down to the plane that's facing slightly down and over to the right, then the wing of the nostril is facing kind of up and over. Now we can use lines that describe that plane. And you can see how these lines, they become a part of the sculpture. They sculpt the form. They show us the form the value of the form, but they also show us which direction everything is facing. Yeah? And then let's say there's, there's still light hitting the top here, but there's a little bit of a, there's still some values happening. We could cross hatch this too. Especially the side plane of this nose here, right? The side plane of this nose, we could either go this way, right, like this, going down the nose, or we could follow these lines that we've already used on that same direction and describe that this is a ramp that meets to the bridge of the nose, and that has a transition top. All right, so now we have a drawn nose that is quite sculptural. You could draw this nose in many different ways. You could shade it in many different ways. But in my opinion, drawing it like this might not be the final result, the final end goal for your artwork, but seeing it this way, seeing that this is facing this way through your lines, and seeing that your nose is tilting downward here, using your lines to describe those tilts and those planes helps you see the world three-dimensionally, with volume, with shape, it takes up space. It's a sculpture, not just a flat drawing on a piece of paper. Right, so now we have a nose. So cross-hatching describes the form, but it also creates, right, light plus shadow. And that's what this shows right here. And if we wanted to, we could even go in with a crosshatch here and get a nice shadow shape that happens in the area that is in the most darkness, right? And then if we really wanted to, we could say, okay, this comes up like this, and there's a cast shadow cast by the nose. Comes up like that. And there's two ways to do a cast shadow. If you wanted to, you could follow the form entirely within this area, which would be kind of like the upper part of the lip here, right? The upper part of the muzzle kind of connects down to the lip. Right, it's a big old piece of fleshy skin. Or we could just do verticals and then show that it's a different type of shadow than these other ones. These other shadows show form, they describe form. And then a cast shadow, you can just use vertical lines. I think it's a nice stylistic choice because it shows that it's a different type of shadow. Right? It's a shadow that's being cast by the thing that you've already described have form. And that changes the way we read it. Because it shows, right, it's kind of like this area of the lack of information. And that contrast of less information next to an area that has a lot of information makes that information really stand out. If you wanted to push it a step further, you could find the shadows that are in this area here where there's like little convex shape right in the lip. Maybe this over here wraps over that. And then now we're into drawing some lips here. Like so. We want to be as descriptive as we can with these lips with our line. And we want to use lines that we've already practiced doing in our previous exercises, right? Curves, straights, S-curves. And then when we shade it, we want to make sure to use the same principles that we did with the nose, which was following the contour of the thing we're shading to create form and shift in value. Always describing the roundness as much as we can within the ellipse, and finding the values that are most important to describe. So patching them in a way that shows even more what's happening within. Right, and then down here, maybe the horizontal lines, the shadow, and some curved lines going here as it wraps around the mouth. And down here, there's some lines like this. And then up here, and now we have part of a face. And, you know, though the construction of it might not be ideal, right? The nose might be a little bit off compared to the mouth, but the main idea here is practicing the things that we've been learning with our lines. Look at how solid these lines are. Look at the cross hatching within here, the diamonds that we're creating. This is what makes a drawing really clean. If you were to draw it with, you know, just this kind of hatching where you don't know what the hell's going on, and you know, yeah, if you do this stylistically throughout a whole piece, sure, you can do it. You can find, you know, a shadow shape, say, and just keep doing this until it kind of reveals itself, and then start to find shadow shape within the shadow shape, right? And then you can eventually make an eyeball, right, out of these kind of hatch marks that are chaos. But a clown does not fall around like an idiot because he doesn't know how to balance. Clowns actually have excellent balance. That's why they can ride unicycles and juggle. They're actually extremely coordinated, but they're so coordinated that they can actually manipulate us and make us think that they're fools when really they're in full control of their body. And so when you go to do something like this, right, you're the clown acting the fool when you know how to do it properly. You know how to do the drawings perfectly so that then you can control yourself with uh, a convincing style, right? And then all of a sudden, with this kind of messy cross hatching, right, you have an eyeball. Stylistically, it works, but if you were to draw an eye with beautiful control.
Oh, he's good. He is really good.
That looks a little bit more realistic. right? And this is just the muscle memory kicking in from all the exercises we've been doing. And I'm just drawing lines that would describe the form that I wanted to describe. And I'm able to do so because I've practiced the rudiments, pull out those lines when I need to on the spot. Right? And now we have an eye here that looks a little bit more realistic than maybe this one. And yeah, sure, this one could have more expression, but learning it, how to do it really, really well and really, really cleanly allows you to do things a little bit more messy, but with control, right? A little more chaotic, or a little more controlled chaotic style. So never underestimate what you can do when you learn how to do things really clean first, and then practice it and create and develop a style that is essentially more messy, but shows a uniqueness to your mark making. And even though I was doing lots of random marks in here, they were still marks that I know how to make, right? They were still pretty well controlled marks, even though they were just scribbles. And so now we've drawn a couple things, right? Egg and dart, face, it's part of a face, a couple eyes, right? What else can we describe with form? Okay, so let's say we do just a geometric box. In 1 point perspective, right? The points are all proceeding to a vanishing point back here. Now, draw two boxes real quick just so we have them. I can compare stylistically what we're doing. Right, so if I crosshatch this one, or if I shade this one in like this, right, it looks like a mess, right? There's spots in here that show more light, more value than others. If I were to take this one here and follow the vertical on the side plane, right, instantly has more form, has more consistency in shadow, has more consistency in value. When you squint at it, it has a value shape to it. And then when I draw the cast shadow here, I can take on some horizontal lines because it's hitting the floor. And having that change in line like that, right, vertical to horizontal, shows that there's a plane change. And this is facing up, obviously. And that's described by the line. Now, if I wanted to crosshatch this, I could, and I would follow plane going to and receding to the vanishing point. Okay. So now let's do like more of an organic shape, kind of like the bean. Right, the bean is a shape that looks a lot like the human figure.
this is not easy. My brain is working in the middle of the morning. I don't like turning my brain on. I need coffee.
And it has
Let me draw this goddamn bean.
three-dimensional volume to it that allows us to see. Right, let's say this is the torso that you know the shoulders would be up here, shoulder, and then there's the head up here. So the bean is an organic shape that you can shift, but what you can do with it is you can sculpt it, right? You can use your hatch marks to describe the direction that the planes are facing.
We are the children. We are the ones who make a brighter day. So let's start giving.
Just by doing that alone, I've described
There's
more
a
on this
choice we're
thing than
making.
without.
We're saving our own
Now I see
lives.
that there's a
It's true. Make a brighter day, just you and me. We are the world. We are the children. We are the ones who make a brighter day. So let's start giving.
And now if I really wanted to get specific, maybe there's a little crumpling, like a little fleshy kind of pocket here.
I'm getting inside this pocket.
And those also have shadow. Those are described with some.
This one open mine.
And we're leaving this bottom area light. It's almost like there's a really strong reflected light coming back up onto it. If we wanted to, we could reduce that and find our core shadow. by rolling a line up into our previous crosshatch marks. And when they overlap, it creates the core shadow.
Move your hand.
Right? Here, there's a core shadow now, a really dark line that comes through. And then down here, there's a reflected light, so it's a little lighter in value. And then, you can describe this entirely. You can describe this all the way if you really wanted to, by just finding more cross contour. Where are the lines going? How can I describe this form? More of my practice, more of my lines. Right? Now this is looking really three-dimensional. Right? Now it looks like it's someone's torso. Obviously, the legs and arms have been severed in some way, but it's okay. It exists, right? And so this right here is an iterative practice that you can do as well, where you can just continue to create different shapes that have the bean shape, let's say, to it, and then find a side plane, find your center line, and then shape. Really bent together.